Hey guys, this is Eric Knight. It is again December 11th, 2012. I want to touch base on a few issues again, being as we're completely bombarded by the whole fiscal cliff deal. I want to touch on income tax, taxes in general, businesses as they tie to growing our economy, and spending cuts, being that we're in some pretty tumultuous times right now. So, my personal view on income tax. I believe that eventually we should abolish the income tax. I believe that a lot of people, well, anybody in their right mind does not want to pay taxes or income tax. And I believe that what I earn is my personal property and that's what I should be entitled to. And I believe most people feel the same way. I don't think anybody in their right mind, again, wants to go out and pay income tax. The income tax was originally set up basically to pay for a war. And it was said that once that war was over, we would again abolish the income tax, which never happened. Unfortunately, we tacked on a bunch of these social programs, welfare programs, government grew in size, and things have just been getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So we're paying a lot of taxes today, at least some people are. So I want to tie this into entrepreneurship because one of the biggest things that Barack Obama wants to do is tax those people that earn more than $250,000 a year. A lot of these people are the business owners, and he gets a lot of support from those on the left. A lot of people see, business owners in general as being greedy people, and they don't deserve the amount of money that they have, and they should pay a little bit more and give it to everybody else. So my take on entrepreneurship, I've read a lot of books, a lot of biographies from anyone from Steve Jobs to Larry Ellison, Bill Gates, Henry Ford, even down to just the plain Jane little guys, the ones that run the coffee shops, or just overall perspective on how an entrepreneur actually creates and sustains a business over time. And I believe that we live in a society today that really focuses on the success of individuals. That's when they get recognized. It's kind of like that quote that, a champion isn't made in the ring, he's merely recognized there. We recognize them when they're successful and they produce something of value, yet we forget what it took and the blood, sweat, and tears and sacrifice these people put into the business to make it what it is today and obviously turn a good profit for themselves. Most businesses don't get off the ground. I know some people that actually work in my profession that they had tried to start their own businesses over time, and they put hundreds of thousands of their own dollars into the business, and after so many years, it just fell out from under them. They lost everything, and they come out here years later to rebuild their lives and repay debts. We don't hear about those people. We hear about the people that made all the money, the ones that are getting wealthy off their businesses. The one trend that I notice when somebody does create a successful business is it normally takes anywhere from probably 3 to 7 years before they have a self-sustaining business that actually produces a good amount of profit for that individual. Now, these people behind the scenes put in a ridiculous amount of effort to create the business. They're not the guys that are earning the wage making or working 40 hours a week. These people are working 16-hour days. They're not taking vacations for years. They're sacrificing their marriage, time with their kids, putting all their income and all their assets on the line, taking out new mortgages on their house to pay for the business. They put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into making a successful business. The entrepreneur, the business owner, he's the one that gets paid last. After all the bills are paid, the health insurance, the taxes, the liabilities, the wages, etc., whatever's left over is what the business owner takes home for himself. Now, whether that's $20,000 a year or $20 million a year doesn't really matter to me as long as they did it in an ethical way. Excuse me. But I believe they deserve to earn and keep every penny of that. So that's my take on that. But the one question that I want to pose to these brilliant liberals out there is, why do you feel we need to tax these people more? How is this going to improve our economy? Because if you're taxing somebody that makes that much, that would originally reinvest their profits back into the business, how is this, number one, going to expand the business? How are they going to hire more people? How is it going to improve wages? How is it going to improve working conditions? How is it going to pay for all this new healthcare insurance now? How is this going to grow the business and expand the economy or the private sector? Common sense tells me, and just reality, the opposite will happen. Things are going to tighten up. People will be laid off. There's going to be less opportunity out there. So I think a lot of these liberals are also very quick to forget that, during the Clinton years, we had the internet boom. That created a lot of jobs. It wasn't the taxes that promoted jobs. It was other things. And then obviously that bubble burst, and then George Bush inherited that. But we're quick to forget those things because he was one of the greatest presidents ever, apparently. So I'm not saying he was bad, but I think they're looking in the wrong direction for the real answers. Now, you have capital gains. Well, let's say we increase capital gains tax. Another part of being an entrepreneur is obviously raising the capital to get your business off the ground. One other trend that I've noticed is it always takes a lot more money than these people ever would have dreamed of to get the business running up properly. And one of the biggest sources is venture capital. Now, it's very difficult to go out and raise venture capital as is in this day and age. Now, if this money's going to be taxed more, do you think it's going to become easier for entrepreneurs to go out and raise these funds, or potentially harder? I would agree with the latter. I think it's going to become much harder, more difficult. One of the hot button issues for me that really just pisses me off is hearing how these people need to pay their fair share. You're not paying enough. The wealthy need to pay just a little bit more out of fairness. Well, define fairness for me, please. I just want a real logical explanation of what's fair. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. When one person creates a successful business, society wins and their employees win. People have a job. People have an opportunity to earn a living for themselves. And we're just squashing that. But fair share. Well, the wealthiest individuals in this country and these business owners already pay the lion's share of the taxes. So you have almost 50% of the society that doesn't pay anything in federal income tax. And then you have a very large portion of that group that gets a bigger refund than they paid in. Explain that in terms of fairness to me. How is stealing from me and you and giving it to somebody else, how is that fair? I always get a kick out of these bleeding heart liberals, some that I talk to on a regular basis, always talking about how, I just want to give so much to these other people. I want to pay more. I can afford to pay a little bit more because I've done so well for myself. Ironically, these people actually don't pay anything in taxes. And they're taking advantage of a lot of the very same things that they're so adamant about getting rid of. So my thing is, I guess, if you really feel that strongly about paying more, by all means, open up your checkbook, write a check to the government, and they'll take your money. It's legal to do that, but I don't see a lot of these people stepping up to the plate. They talk a big game, a lot of bark, little bite. So one thing I would ask as a question along with this is, let's say that I make $100,000 a year, just to make it simple, $100,000 a year. Of that $100,000, what percent of that do you personally feel you're entitled to of my money, or society's entitled to? Or to reframe it maybe in a more fair perspective, let's say you personally earn $100,000 a year, what portion of that belongs to me? What am I entitled to out of that? Or society? How much should I get of your money that you worked for? That would be, I'd love to hear your responses on that and why. Finally, spending cuts. That's another issue. Both sides, I mean, they're looking at cutting some things, maybe like a little over $1 trillion over 10 years. That's a total joke. Are you kidding me? We need to cut like at least $1 trillion this year if we're serious about saving this country. But my question to these Democrats is, let's say the Republicans give you your way. Let's raise those taxes. Let's tax the hell out of these guys. You guys deserve more. What are you willing to cut? And not just that, what are you willing to cut besides the military? That's always the answer you get. Well, we need to cut military spending. Well, I actually agree with that. I think we should build up our defenses back home. I think we should end the wars like Barack Obama promised. Close Gitmo. Bring the troops home. Save money that way. Close down the bases. Stop policing the world. You wonder why these people over there are pissed off at us. It's like if Russia set up a base up there in Oregon and began policing us around. How do you think we would respond to that? I don't think we'd stand for it. And can you argue with the other people around the world that don't like it when we're there? Shocker. But outside of military spending, let's say we cut $300 billion military spending, or cut it in half, whatever. That's a pretty big cut. Well, we still have $1 trillion+ that we also additionally need to cut. What are you willing to cut? What entitlements? We have to cut some entitlements. We have to. They're bankrupt. It's a Ponzi scheme. They're unsustainable. What are you willing to cut? What government agencies? What government programs? What welfare programs? You name it. What are you willing to cut if you're actually somewhat serious about saving this country? So with that, in closing here, there's a video link that I'm going to post in my comments section that I would highly encourage anybody to go watch this video if you haven't seen it yet. Pretty entertaining. It puts a lot of things into perspective. It's a video that Anthony Robbins did, but it's based off of some research from a guy that, excuse me, calls himself, I believe, the Iowa Hawk. And the first thing it does is it puts the numbers into perspective, because I think a lot of people are, bombarded by, well, millions, trillions, billions. It all sounds the same, but how big are these numbers in actuality? What can we relate it to? If you think about how big the numbers really are, it's pretty astonishing. And on top of that, we break down a calendar year and we look at a bunch of different scenarios just for 1 year of spending in the United States. Okay, you want to tax these rich people? Let's do it. Let's really just tax the hell out of these Fortune 500 companies. Let's take all their profits. Let's seize all their assets. Let's take all the advertising dollars from the NFL. Let's take all the wealthy movie stars' properties in Beverly Hills. Let's liquidate all those houses, everything. And let's just see how far it takes us. But then you got to ask yourself, if we actually tax them that much, and we got through 1 year of spending, but yet there's nothing left after the year's over, no assets to produce any more revenues or wealth, what do we do then? So it makes you ask the question, is the problem really that we need to tax people more? Or is it more logical that we have a huge, huge spending problem? And I think if you really pay attention and just open your mind, you'll see that we have a big spending problem, more than anything. So I'll post the link up. Excellent video, entertaining to watch if you have the time. I highly recommend it. But for now, that's all I'm going to leave you guys with today. Thank you again for tuning in. This is The Night Show, and God bless the United States of America.